Welcome to DasGeek. It's almost Halloween, but you know what scares me more than Jason or Michael Myers or anything else? It's all of our privacy being stolen by so many companies out there. And one of the ways that we can reduce that is by having the proper settings on our mobile devices set up. And that's what this continuation of the first video is meant to do. If you've not watched my first video entitled Mobile Privacy, go check that out first. That's going to kind of give you a nice grounding of what we're doing here. This video is not for the individuals who are extreme privacy where they've got burner phones and all this type of stuff. This is for everyday users. These tips you can go and send to your grandmother. She'd be able to follow them and have much better privacy in her life. We're going to make it really difficult for companies to steal your personal data or track what you're doing. That's the goal, is to be able to utilize these devices and get the full joy out of them, but make it incredibly difficult for anybody to track and follow you, because privacy is something like the EFF talks about on the back of this shirt. It's a freedom that you should be able to enjoy and express without these companies going in there and taking that away from you. And we're going to start taking it back. And it starts with doing the proper settings on your mobile devices. So let's get into it. Our first tip is a really important one, and I bet a lot of people don't know this, but your actual carrier themselves like to sell your data. Many of them take the data that they acquire from your cell phone, your personal data when you're signing up, and actually sell it to advertisers and other companies out there. How is that fair when they cost so much a month that you're already paying for? Well, people allow it to happen. This is the issue when nobody cares about privacy for so many years. Finally, it's becoming a hot topic. For so many years, people didn't care, and companies took advantage of it. Here's an example of one carrier's opt-out. Notice here is Verizon, but you can do this with AT&T. Any carrier that you're with, they all have this option. Now, if you are in one of the states in the US in which they have more diligent privacy laws regarding this, you can go in and do some forms for do not sell my information for California and those type of things. If you're not a part of that, you can still opt out in your account settings. For instance, as an example, and each carrier has this in a slightly different variation. They generally bury these in your profile settings somewhere in your settings for your account, but you'll log in online. And in this case with Verizon, for instance, if you don't want to participate in the Business and Marketing Insights program, you can opt out using the Privacy Preferences page on My Verizon in the My Verizon app, or by calling that number there. So really important thing that you do is tell them you don't want to be part of their Insights and Marketing program. You don't want more personalized ads and those things. They try to make this stuff sound like it's really going to help you somehow be able to utilize your phone or your phone service if they're tracking and selling your data. But obviously it's just for them to make more money off of you, and you're already paying for your phone service, so you shouldn't have to go through that. So again, you can go to any of these carriers' websites. I've looked at them all, from AT&T, T-Mobile, all of them. They have the ability to opt out of these programs there. So that's the first thing that you need to do. I'm going to mention again, going through your account if you're on Android and going into your Google account and making sure you're turning off any settings related to ads, web activity, location history, YouTube history, all of it. You can see all of these. You can pause, and these ad settings and personal results and search and things you can turn off. You can do this in your browser, and you can do this in your dashboards with each of your accounts. But this is going to help tremendously limit the amount of information being grabbed. We know this isn't foolproof. There were many situations where it was reported Google continued tracking people's location even when they had those settings off. But this is, at least they got caught for that. So hopefully this at least helps some reduce, if you're using any Google services and on your Android devices, the amount of data that's being taken from you. Now, I see a lot of confusion with this one, and this is a really important tip here. A lot of people believe SMS are secure. They send very personal photos, very personal messages, and act like nobody can go in and read SMS. However, all you have to do is look no further than court cases to see how many people's SMS text messages get brought up in court cases. And believe me, things can be taken out of context, and that could be really bad for you if you are actually innocent, but you have some text messages that are taken out of context or that build a profile of a type of person you are. Maybe you just have a really joking relationship with somebody, and some of those things could be taken one way and they're not meant to. So you don't want people to be able to read your most personal messages. You should be able to secure those properly and have encryption. SMS is not safe. it talks about here Android messages, just looking up are text messages encrypted Android. Android messages, which has just expanded to end-to-end encryption from beta to production, and they're talking about RCS here, has a raft of caveats. It's only default end-to-end encrypt when both senders and recipient have chat features enabled, and much more critically, it only works one-on-one messaging. If you have group chats, it doesn't work at all. So what's the solution here? Well, I suggest using something other than the text message service built into your phone. And this is whether you're on iPhone or Android here. Now, iMessages has better encryption by default, but a lot of people turn on things like iCloud and other cloud services, and those messages get stored up there, and the encryption key gets stored as well. That's how they can go through and read through those things. And people with iPhones end up in those court cases as well. So just because it's an iPhone, even though it does have better encryption than standard SMS, I wouldn't rely on it. What do I use instead? Use something like Signal. Signal has a fantastic ability that lets you actually utilize Signal not only for your encrypted chats with another person who uses Signal, but you can set up Signal as your primary text messaging service as well. So people who don't have Signal, you're still only using that one app to send them messages, even though they won't be encrypted. Hopefully you can talk your friends into using Signal eventually. And then you can have that encryption set up with them in a regular Signal chat. But this way, you're not going to miss out on those SMS messages, and you're not going to forget, because you can remove the SMS off of your phone's home screen and accidentally send SMSs when you meant to send them through Signal, because it will incorporate your SMS messages into the Signal app. Now, there are other apps as well besides Signal that you can utilize. For instance, a lot of privacy enthusiasts are using Element Matrix. It's just a fantastic service. It's a little more difficult to sign up for and get set up. It just is, but it's a beautiful service once you do. The other option out there that a lot of people are talking about is called Session, and Session is one that's kind of starting to take off and also focuses in privacy. But Signal is one that a lot of people have heard of, and you probably have a lot of luck getting your friends who may not be technical or privacy savvy to sign up for a service like Signal. So I think it's a good starting point. Either way, if you're using one of these services, you're far better than utilizing the stock SMS tools that are built into your phone. We talked about cloud services. Stop using the cloud services. Do not use Google Drive. Do not use the iCloud. Regardless, if you think Apple is a huge privacy friend of yours, stop utilizing these cloud services. Apple was just in the news because they were about to release a scanning technology, and there were so many experts in there. Of course, they always release these things under the idea that it's going to keep kids safe or keep more people safe, but we know this stuff gets abused. You give an inch, it takes a mile. That's the problem. It's not about stopping these bad people. We all want to stop bad people. It's the fact that these services get abused, and there were plenty of instances in which Apple eventually backed off, at least backed off for now, about not rolling this out, but they were going to basically scan through your phone or your iCloud and be able to look for certain types of pictures and things out there and be able to categorize them to send to police and other things. The problem with these services is that it was known to categorize incorrectly. So you've got pictures of yours and your information being sent to potentially law enforcement to look into stuff, maybe because the way the metadata is flagged, it gets flagged as something nefarious, and now your information is starting to flow through those back-end processes with law enforcement and government, other things. And I'd rather just not have that, right? I don't want any of that stuff being done. So stop using those cloud servers. Instead, use something like a Mega.nz or Treseret that a lot of people like, and you can upload your photos there. Better if you host your own stuff, like on DigitalOcean. And by the way, if you go to do.co/DLN, you'll get a $100 free credit to host your own cloud server. You have control over it. You get to decide the firewalls. You get to decide the policies. And they have over like 5,000 cloud agnostic tutorials out there to help you get started. Literally, you just follow line by line and you'll have a full server up there that you can upload your photos and anything else you want, or at least utilize it as your own VPN service. There's so many things you can do with DigitalOcean, do.co/DLN. Go check that out. It's just an amazing service. I've been using DigitalOcean forever, and they're going to give you $100 to set up servers and play with, so you can build them up, mess them up, tear them down, build a new one until you learn how to do it properly. But the point is, do not rely on the free cloud services out there from Google Drive. There's a reason why they give you so much space for free. And there's a reason why the space is so inexpensive. They want you to use those cloud services because then they get to use you as the product. They get to start scanning through that stuff. It's how they create all these nice collages with your pictures and time and dates and locations and everything that they do. Instead, host your own photos. Do not utilize, turn off iCloud, turn off Google Drive, and you're going to be far, far better than 99% of the population out there. Services like Tresseret and Mega.nz can be installed apps on your phone. They're just as convenient, can automatically upload your pictures and things just like an iCloud service, but has much better encryption policies and privacy policies in place. The next thing I want to talk about is huge, and this is making sure that you limit the amount of apps that you are installing. Apps are the primary way that information is taken from your device. There is a reason why every service is like, please install our app. If you go on your phone and you go to a Twitter or Facebook, oh, you'll have such a better experience if you just use our app. There's a reason they want you to use the app. You could browse just as good on the website, but they want you to use the app. They're going to annoy you to use the app because they can get so much more permissions out of you through that app. Let me give you an example. Pick Facebook Lite here from the Google Play Store. If we scroll down, and you should do this with every app you have installed. If you've not done this before, go look at the permissions. Okay, so Facebook Lite, what is this? A social media site that allows you to find friends, watch some live videos, play games, talk with them. It wants access to your camera to take pictures and video. It wants all of your contacts, to modify your contacts, to find accounts on the device and read all of your contacts. It wants your device and app history to retrieve what running apps beside it are actually running. It wants to be able to record audio with your microphone. It wants your identity. It wants to read your own contact card, find accounts on the device, add or remove accounts as it wishes, and SMS. It wants to read your text messages. Now, if you're using Signal, that's going to be much more difficult, especially if you're using Signal to Signal, meaning the other person has Signal as well and you've got encrypted messages. But if you're just using standard SMS and you installed this app, which, I mean, stop using Facebook, people. This is like, at this point, do I really have to argue why Facebook is bad to have installed? I mean, there's so much news out there right now. It's insane. Stop using it. Just delete it. It's really not that important. Calendar, read your calendar and your confidential information. So events plus confidential information, add or modify. This is one app. This is a social app, people out there on the Google Play Store here. Wi-Fi connections, wants to view all your Wi-Fi connections, photos and media, wants access to all your storage, your precise location, your approximate location, directly call phone numbers, read phone status, read call logs, device and call information, read phone status and identity, receive data from the internet, download files without notification to you. They can download files, change your audio settings, install shortcuts, send sticky broadcasts, create accounts and set passwords. Look at this. This is an app that everyone would go and say, oh, it's rated for teen. It's got 3.5 stars. That's not bad. 19 million people have downloaded this pile of garbage. And it is just a mess with permissions. You have to stop installing apps. You need to get rid of most of these apps on your device. And if you have to use a service like a Twitter, because we're not even going to talk about Facebook. You've already deleted Facebook. You're watching this. You deleted Facebook. Good job. But let's say Twitter. You know, you got your friends on Twitter, something like that, which isn't privacy that great either, but much better than Facebook. We can at least agree on that. Then do it through the web browser. You don't need to give the app permissions. Look at what they're trying to get from you. If the apps are free, you are the product here. They're getting all the information they can from you. 99.9% of the time, that is the case. Unless you're using something like F-Droid, which is another app store that you can install that has a lot of great apps out there that are open source. Now, open source in some cases, not all cases, most cases, is free, as in doesn't cost anything, although you should always donate to help the development of these things, especially if you find the app and you really like it. But more importantly, because it's open source, lots of people contributed to it, and you can go audit the code yourself, go look through the code, see if there's anything nefarious out there. Now, is everything on F-Droid safe? Probably not. But you got a lot of people in the open source community that want to make something like this a success, so people stop relying on the Google Play Store by itself. So installing F-Droid and looking for apps there for your maps and navigation and things would be much better than getting stuff directly off of the Google Play Store, where you can see They have absolutely overrun and ruined the Google Play Store with having absolutely no control over the type of permissions that these apps are requesting and demanding from your device. This has been a problem with Android for a long time. iOS is much better. At least most of their apps actually cost something, and it's much more difficult. You could see recently Facebook lost a ton of money in their earnings because of the blockades that Apple put in place for the advertising. I'm not saying they're perfect, and if you have an iPhone, you're going to be far more private than an Android user. There's some caveats there, but in this case, when we talk about permissions, Apple has kind of led the way, and Google and Android have been following in that. And hopefully Android will catch up and actually do something better in this realm. That would be fantastic. Okay. Next thing, do not use the password manager that's built into your browser or into your device. Like Samsung has a password catcher, Google has one, all of those stuff. Stop using that. Use Bitwarden. They're a sponsor of the Destination Linux Network, but I was using them far before they ever became a sponsor. It has tons of open source code in here. Says right here, open source software, seamless integration. You can have an app on your phone. You can have it on your desktop. Linux, Windows, Mac, doesn't matter. They support everything out there, Android, iPhone, and it's a fantastic password manager that I trust. Bitwarden.com/DL in there, and you can get started for free, and you can keep your free account if you want, but if you want a premium account, it's $10 a year. It's like $10 a year, not a month, but a year. So this is the best password manager out there, period. Better than LastPass, all of them. This is a good thing to do. Is not what every time on my Samsung device that I do a password, it's like, you want Samsung to store it? No. You want your browser to store it? No. Bitwarden's who I trust. Bitwarden's where my passwords stay. And if you want to have two-factor authentication outside of Bitwarden, that's even better. If you want to use another application that does a 2FA random code and things, so you have both Bitwarden and a separate two-factor authenticator, that way you're more secure if anybody was to get into one or the other. That's an option as well, but Bitwarden should definitely be something you check out. So we're almost done here. Just real quick, I'm going to do a separate video on this, but read the actual manufacturer's EULA, Samsung privacy policy for the US. We're going to go through this in detail, and we're going to do this with a bunch of the manufacturers of the device. But let me tell you something. You're going to be shocked when you read the amount of information that the device manufacturer themselves is taking from you. It's just, these privacy agreements have gotten completely out of control, and we really need something to step in to stop them, because they basically are like, hey, we're going to take everything and we can sell it to anyone, and good luck. And if you want to use our device, well, then this is what you have to agree to. It's an absolute disaster. We're going to go through those and see if we can find a company that actually doesn't have a disastrous privacy policy, but read these things. So this is Samsung's out there. I have a link in the show notes. You can go check it out, but we're going to do a whole video on it. The next thing, of course, is, and I know a lot of people who are in the privacy world being like, but just root your device and put a different operating system on it. Not everybody can do that. We talked about why in the first video. So if you have questions about that, go check it out. But if you can root your device and put another OS on it, there are far safer options than the Google Android out there. For instance, Graphene OS, you have Lineage OS, you have Ubuntu Touch, you have so many other better options for you to put on your device. There are limitations though, specifically when it comes to Google Play Store. And if you have business applications and things you need to authenticate through the Google Play Store, this can create an issue where some people can't do this. Also, obviously, could hurt the warranty of your phone. But if you can, EOS is another fantastic option. Check out one of these options that they're open source and focus more on privacy security out of the box. So that's it. If you follow these steps between the two videos, you will not be privacy and security perfect, but you will be far more private and secure than 99.99% of the population out there. It'll be so much more difficult to get information and profile you. The companies will just focus on the other 99.9% of people who they freely give all their information to them and have no privacy left at all. So hopefully this helps you. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button, because we got a lot more privacy and security content coming your way. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains.